It's that time of the year. Your vacation is coming up. You can already hear the beach waves, feel the warm breeze, relax, and think about work. You really, really want it all to work out while you're away. Monday.com gives you and the team that peace of mind. When all work is on one platform and everyone's in sync, things just flow. Wherever you are, tap the banner to go to Monday.com.
Flying solo. So low they can't hear me. That's a joke, kind of. A bastardized version of a joke from the Tiki Room at Disneyland. And that's in honor of Richard Sherman, right here on RulaskaThoughts. Cue the sniper, girl. I'm gonna shoot you across the whole world, 'cause my gun, it reaches far. It will always find out where you are, 'cause it's you, the sniper girl. Yeah, everybody, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. The sniper can reach you. You could be in Europe. You can be in Seattle, Washington. Doesn't matter. My sniper will find you and take you out of my life, and you won't even know it. Sniped. Just one day there, gone the next. That's what it means to cue the sniper, everybody. Granted, in this case, it didn't kill the intersaboteur. Anyway, hi everyone, my name is Joe Betance, and I am the host of RulaskaThoughts. I gotta tell you, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Last year, or was it 2 years ago now, whenever Roberto Mata first started doing this show, he did the season, whatever the season was. And he goes, I think this is when he was doing Bring It to the Runway with Christian. I think this was like 2 years ago. And he was like, they finished the season, and then it was All Stars. And they were like, we're going to keep going. And I go, no, guys, it's really very exhausting. And you don't want to do that. Just stop right now, take a break, come back next year. And both of them were like, no. We're going to do it. And they did like maybe one episode, maybe 0. And then they faded away. And then last year, I believe something similar happened where Robert, did Rulaska last year? I don't know. But same thing where I was like, yeah, you should take a break. No. Let's keep going. Maybe does one episode. And then this year, I don't know. Again, shame on me. After the season, Robert was like, let's keep going. Let's do All Stars. Let's do RulaskaThoughts. I was like, are you sure? Yeah, let's do it. Then we did, they dropped 2 episodes at once. And so we didn't do RulaskaThoughts. He did the second episode. He technically did RulaskaThoughts in that he showed up when we record and did episode 2. Then episode 3 happened, and he was going to be out of town, but it doesn't matter because I did the Evie Oddly interview. And now here we are, episode 4, and I hit him up Monday morning, and I say, listen, do I see you today? And he's like, Josito! Sorry, man. I'm on the road, and I haven't watched the last 2 episodes. And I was like, you know what? So then let me tell you more. So then I was like, all right, well, I've done it alone by myself. It's not a big deal. I could do it alone. I've done it many times by myself. And I'm telling you, I immediately sat down. I wrote pages. Hand wrote like 4 or 5 pages of notes of what I wanted to talk about. Like every line, front and back of like ruled paper. I don't know what you call it. And I was like, this is not garbage. It wasn't garbage, but I was like, what's really here? I'm gonna talk about from memory. I mean, we're gonna talk about what's in those pages. But I was like, I'm not gonna read this, right? And I go, what can we talk about? What can we talk about? And I sat there and I thought, and I swear to Christ, I thought the whole day, sat there and thought. I couldn't think of one fucking thing to talk about. And then I said, you know what? I'll wake up in the morning and I will be refreshed and I will have things to talk about on Rulaska Thoughts. And I'm going to tell you something. I still couldn't think of anything. And then that's when I realized it's the season. And that's kind of what I was talking about in my original thing that I wrote, the front and back pages. It actually, that's kind of what the topic I was, but I wasn't relating it in terms of doing Rulaska Thoughts. But we're going to talk about this. But what I'm saying is, I still want to give you guys 2 shows a week. I still want to do Rulaska Thoughts. So what I'm doing is I'm brainstorming what to do. In my mind, Robert Mata, or I get somebody else, comes on the show and we have a drag-themed conversation, just shooting the shit. Robert and I are good at that. I am anticipating Robert will be trepidatious, to use a Robert Mata word, about doing that, because Robert Mata likes a detailed outline of everything we're going to talk about. So I don't know that he'll really like to fly by the seat of his pants. Now again, I'm anticipating Robert Mata might be like, Josito, we never have an outline. When have we ever had an outline, Mama? And I will say, no, we haven't. But there is an anticipation that we'll talk about the episode. There's an anticipation that there's some. I'm saying not even talking about the episode. There's not anything to talk about with these episodes. So I'm saying, I think, and this is going against my core belief system, what I'm going to tell you. I think we go to a thing where we interview drag queens who've been on the show, not every week, but we interview former contestants. We just have casual conversations. We talk about what's on Reddit. We just fly up the seat of our pants. And by the way, Rulaska Thoughts was always designed to only be 20 minutes. A break at the 10-minute mark, and then out at 20, the end. Robert Mata and I blow past that every single week without fail. We never miss a week where we blow past that. But it's only supposed to be a 20-minute show. And we just let it get out of hand and became like a 45-minute show where we talk about old Atari games or something. And I want to go back to the original concept. It's casual conversation. If something comes out of it, comes out of it. But we only really do a 20-minute show. So I'm rebranding, and it's going to still be called Rulaska Thoughts. But I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm going to follow the advice that I am going to give the show in after the break. So after the break, I have a whole thing that I'm going to talk about. In fact, during the break, I'm going to go get my original papers and try and read from them, or tell you, at least glance at them and go like, oh yeah, I was talking about that, whatnot. So I'm not going to read from it because it's a mess and I can barely read my own writing. But what I will say is, after the break, I'm going to give you my essay about the show. But I'll be honest with you, unless something crazy happens, it's the final word I have on the show. It's the final word. Before we go, I got to tell you guys something. If you're listening on the public feed, I removed a 20-minute rant I did about Gottmik. It happened at the very end of the show. I'm not even joking. Nathan pulled one of his famous Nathan tricks. And all right. And I go, anything else, Nathan? And he goes, yeah, what do you think about this Gottmik? And I went on a 20-minute rant about Gottmik and the show. And I didn't post it in the public feed because I listened to it very carefully. So I felt that I wanted to choose my words even more carefully, even though I regretted nothing I said in there. I just wanted to make some points I didn't. So that was actually what the original point that I wrote was. What I'm trying to get at, in the roundabout way I'm trying to say this, is if you want to hear the original rant, the original 20 minutes that I sort of like revised and rethought, you're going to hear a revised version after the break. But if you want to hear the original, you're going to want to go over to patreon.com/afterthoughtmedia, join the premium level and above, and you can get the entire original episode with that 20-minute rant at the end. And you'll get it right then. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we are going to talk about what I think about All Stars Season 9. We'll be back right after this.
On June 14th, your favorite emotions are back on the big screen in Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
It's time to greet your Team Riley! It's anger!
Let me at him!
Fear!
Safety checklist is complete!
Disgust! Ew! Sadness is in the house!
Oh, no.
Hello, I'm anxiety. I'm one of Riley's new emotions.
Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2.
There's a part 2? We're going!
Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Only in theaters June 14th. Get tickets now.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped. Now streaming only on Hulu.
Everyone knows therapy is great for solving problems, but getting therapy has its own problems too, like finding the right therapist, fitting into their schedule, and of course, the cost. Well, BetterHelp can solve those problems. It's totally online and built around your schedule. It's surprisingly affordable too. Connect with a credentialed therapist by phone, video, or online chat, all from the comfort of your home. Visit BetterHelp.com to learn more and save 10% on your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P.
And we are back. So here's what happened. Nathan asked at the end of the show, when I said, do you have any other thoughts on the episode or something? He said that he thought that Taylor and I have been really hard on Gottmik. And he wanted to know what our problem was with Gottmik. So here's the deal. So this is one of the things why I wanted to address this in a later way, in a later date, in a more thought out way for the public feed, is I went on this whole thing, which is not going to be here today, about the history of RuPaul and all this shit, right? But I'm not going to focus on that. What I'm going to say is I don't have a problem with Gottmik per se. I will say that I think he's a very talented look queen. I think he has a good eye for fashion, an amazing eye for fashion, actually. I believe he knows how to sew really well. And he has a very amazing sense of what is currently the cutting edge of fashion, and he can pull off the look. Okay, so those are very, very strong qualities of Gottmik. It makes Gottmik a very strong drag queen, and I don't want to take that away from Gottmik. I almost said Dragmorda. But I will also say that other than his eye for fashion, he's not the best in the other qualities. So let's establish what those other qualities are. So when I want to be very clear here is what I'm outlining is there's a difference between being really good at drag race and really good at drag. You know what it reminds me of is often when you're good at writing or language, people think that you're inherently going to be really good at Scrabble or at crossword puzzles. Now, don't get me wrong; those skills can help, but you're not. You know, like Scrabble is a skill in and of its, like, in other words, I'm a really good writer and I know a lot of words. I'm shitty at Scrabble. Scrabble is a talent that's specific to Scrabble. And they learn these words and they learn the meanings because they have to defend the word. When they put it in, they know these random words and they know all this kind of shit. But it's not necessarily, it can be useful in life, but it's not super useful in life. I'm really good at crossword puzzles, but I'm not doing a brag here. I got good at crossword puzzles when I was like really depressed. But when I got really depressed like I don't know how long ago, 5-6 years ago, I don't know when. And I was already a writer then. I was a good writer then. And I struggled, mama. I struggled with crossword puzzles. So how did I get good? I just did a lot of crossword puzzles and I got good at doing crossword puzzles. It's the same thing here. Just because you're not good at Drag Race doesn't mean you're not good at drag, and vice versa. So let's talk about the skills that come with Drag Race. You have to be a look queen. You have to know how to sew. You have to know how to act. You have to know how to do comedy. Am I missing anything? There's people here listening live. Oh, Luke in the chat room says, like, being able to solve Rubik's cubes. They think that makes you smart for some reason. Perfect. That's a perfect example. I also, when I was depressed, I got into two things: crossword puzzles and Rubik's cubes. Now, look, I thought this was fast. I could do it in 3 minutes. There are people who do it in 3 seconds, but for someone who couldn't do it before and then could do it in 3 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know why anyone would want to be faster than that, but yeah, it's a skill. It's a talent. Anyway, those are the sort of the talents you need. You need to be really, you do have to have a lot of charisma. You do have to be good at acting. You have to be good at comedy. You have to be good at dancing. You have to be good at sewing. Now, look, you can be stronger and weaker in some of them, but you have to have a core competency across the board. And the great queens are the ones who are really talented in most of them. Okay. And I'm going to tell you also that the show more and more has leaned towards having a strength in comedy and acting, and being charismatic has been way more important than a look queen. I think you could win the show if you're a very strong comedy and acting queen with some basic sewing skills. Which makes you think, why isn't Nina West better than she is? Well, I don't think she's as funny as people think she is. Anyway, but I think if you have those core things, then you're going to be fine. Anyway, it kind of reminds me, going back to the acting thing, it kind of reminds me of, I used to, in a former life, I did test preparation. I've mostly focused on the SAT, but I did teach a test called the MCAT. The MCAT is the medical college admissions test, and it's the test that you need to go to medical school. And everybody who takes the MCAT, it's so funny. They fucking worry. This is kind of very similar to Drag Race, actually. They worry about the bio test and the chem test. There's 2 different chem tests. They worry about all the science stuff, because to them, that's what you need to know. Here's the thing. Everybody who's taking the MCAT, for the most part, does really well on the science part. Do you know, I'm going to tell you this right now, what makes or breaks a student on the MCAT for their MCAT score? The verbal section. Because all these assholes have spent the entire time working on their sciences, and they think that's the most important part. And don't get me wrong, it's very important. It's a big part of the test, but everyone's acing that, and they're all bombing the verbal. So often the people who get the best scores are the ones who also ace the verbal. It's the same thing on Drag Race. The people, not everyone, no, we know a lot of people can't sew, but you come in with these queens like Maya Iman LePage who think, well, I can dance and I'm really good at that one thing. I can't do anything else, but I can dance. And that's going to save me. And it's just like, no, queen, that's not going to save you. Right. And we saw, like, I thought she went way too far, much farther than she should have. So this goes back to Gottmik. All right. I just don't think Gottmik is that good at the other aspects. At least I haven't seen any evidence that she's good at these other things. Both of her Snatch games were unremarkable, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not saying they were bad, but they were mediocre. I think they were fine. She's not a good dancer. I think his lip sync abilities are okay. Like, here's the deal. People think that when I say Gottmik isn't great at something, that she's just fine, that I'm saying that Gottmik is terrible. Gottmik isn't terrible. Gottmik is fine. But the show is pushing Gottmik in a way that is like, are you, who are you trying to fool? I don't want to get political, but I'm going to get political a little bit. This is the one political thing that I'm going to say. And I don't usually talk about politics. But I have a problem. I'm going to vote. I'm just going to be very clear here. I'm voting for Joe Biden in November. And I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. But I'm mad at the Democratic Party. I'm mad at the Democratic Party because I don't think Joe Biden should have run. And I don't think they should have run him. And I think it's pure fucking hubris on the part of the Democrats to do this. And I'm just going to say that right now. But what I'm getting at is I think they're making a very, very big mistake in their messaging about the economy. Maybe on some macro level that I'm not an economist, so I don't understand. You look at numbers and the economy is doing great. You know, everything you read, the economy is doing great. We're doing better than actually a lot of the other countries in the world still have not recovered. We have recovered in spades by the numbers. But these are not numbers that are hitting the American people. And so people like me, you, and everybody else, we're feeling it at the gas pump. We're feeling it in the food prices. We're feeling it at other ways. And I'm sure there are very complicated reasons that that's happening. I'm not blaming this on the Biden administration. But what I'm saying is, then they go out there and say, when people say, hey, we're hurting, the prices are high, the this is that, and the but, and they go, no, it's not. The economy's great. What are you talking about? And they gaslight us instead of saying, yeah, this fucking sucks. It's horrible. Let me tell you, on a bigger scale, it's doing really well. We have to find a way to make that trickle down to the American people. Give us the House, give us the Senate, and we will make sure we do things that help you on the ground. But instead, they just fucking deny that it's happening, and they say, no, the economy's great. We don't know what you're talking about. And I think it's a fatal messaging mistake. How does this relate to Drag Race? The show's doing the same thing. We're seeing Gottmik and the other queens, and we're saying they're okay. And they're like, no, they're not. Gottmik's amazing. What are you talking about? And I'm going to tell you something. I think all of the queens are fine. But I don't think that there's one queen who is standing out. I just don't think there's one queen who's standing out. And I blame the show. I don't blame the queens. And I think there's a number of reasons why these queens aren't standing out. One of the reasons why I'm changing RulaskaThoughts is the show has become, I wouldn't even say a parody of itself, but it's so watered down that it seems like every episode is written by AI. And they're so afraid of upsetting the apple cart. So what it does is it lands up making a show. So I think this is the I'm not going to say cognitive dissonance, but there's a definite dissonance between people who watch the show and then people who have to recap the show. And this is what I mean. And now the show's the show's not a show that's created to be recapped. So let's just get that out of the way. The show's meant for people to watch in a bar or at home with friends or by themselves. And I will say, if you're just watching the show as an audience member, it's fine. We're not going to remember the season at all. You ask me a year from now, I'm not going to be able to tell you a fucking thing that happened on this season, right? But it's a pain in the ass to recap because there are no stakes. There's nothing to recap. It's literally flavorless goo. For a while, I was... there's this, I don't know, is Soylent still around? But Soylent was one of those meal replacement drinks. And it had all your nutrients in a day, and you could just drink it, right? And I was doing it for a while. And here was the weird thing about Soylent. I don't know what it tastes like now, but at the time, it just tasted like, and I don't really know how to explain it, nothing. It had zero flavor. And I don't mean like, oh, it had no flavor. I mean like, no, it literally felt like you had a substance, a thick milkshake-like substance in your mouth, but there was no flavor. It was just a substance that was going down your throat. Even water sort of has a flavor. No, this was just like a flavorless, truly flavorless substance going down your mouth. This is Drag Race. No, so now I want to get to the little bit of the I guess what we'll call the gag of the whole thing. I did something earlier today. I was so convinced that these episodes feel like AI written episodes. I took an episode that's a few episodes away. Okay. Someone posted on Reddit the list of all the episodes that were remaining, and then it has all the titles. And there's one called National Drag Convention Roast. National Drag Convention Roast. And I opened up ChatGPT and I said, give me a summary, a hypothetical summary of an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars called National Drag Convention Roast. And I told ChatGPT who the contestants were. I told ChatGPT the rules of this All-Star season. And that's all I told it. Just the basics that it needed to do to write an AI-generated episode. And not only that, then I took the text, put it into an AI voice generator. And so it's the same guy that reads the outro. I'm going to play for you right now. It's about 4 minutes. ChatGPT summary of this. It's not a theoretical episode. It's an episode that's going to air in a few weeks called National Drag Convention Roast. And I'm going to tell you something. Look, obviously going to get details wrong. It's not a fucking fortune teller. But you tell me that this doesn't sound like the kind of episode that's been airing this season, and you'll see why it's been so difficult to recap this show. Here we go. ChatGPT.
Episode summary, National Drag Convention Roast. The queens walk into the workroom and read the new week's message from RuPaul, hinting at the upcoming challenge. Anticipation builds as they gather around to speculate what the challenge might be. Soon, RuPaul enters announcing that this week's main challenge is a comedy roast titled National Drag Convention Roast, where they have to roast each other and the judges. RuPaul reveals that the runway theme is Faux de Love of Fur, emphasizing the use of faux fur in their couture looks. Preparation and rehearsal. The queens start brainstorming their roast shows, with some feeling confident and others more apprehensive about their comedy skills. Nina West, known for her comedy chops, helps some of the queens with their jokes, while Gottmik, who has proven her wit in the past, works on crafting sharp and edgy material. Chanel and Roxy Andrews seem a bit out of their comfort zone, struggling to find the right balance between humor and insult. RuPaul brings in a comedy coach, Michelle Visage, to help the queens refine their routines. Michelle provides feedback and suggestions, encouraging the queens to push boundaries and not hold back. Vanessa Vanjie, known for her fiery personality, receives praise for her quick wit, while Georges is advised to bring more energy to her performance. The roast. On the main stage, the queens perform the roast in front of RuPaul, Michelle Visage, and Ross Matthews. The audience is treated to a variety of comedic styles. Angeria Perez Van Michels opens the roast with a polished and poised performance, delivering her jokes with a southern charm that has everyone laughing. Roxy Andrews surprises the judges with her biting humor, making sharp jabs that land well with the audience. Vanessa Vanjie delivers a high-energy, no-holds-barred performance, taking playful digs at everyone, including RuPaul. Plastique Tiara leans into her sweet persona, but manages to sneak in some surprisingly savage comments. Gottmik brings down the house with her sharp wit and edgy humor, leaving the judges in stitches. Georgia struggles a bit with timing, but manages to get a few good laughs. Chanel delivers a solid performance with well-crafted jokes and a strong stage presence. Nina West rounds off the roast with a masterful blend of humor and heart, poking fun at everyone while maintaining a positive and uplifting tone. The runway. The queens then take the runway in their best faux fur couture. Angeria Paris and Michael stuns in a luxurious old Hollywood-inspired faux fur gown. Roxy Andrews serves a high glam look with a dramatic fur stole and sleek fitted dress. Vanessa Vanjie struts in a bold avant-garde ensemble with colorful faux fur accents. Plastique Tiara looks ethereal in a pastel fur trimmed dress, giving it a fantasy vibe. Dot Mitt brings an edgy punk-inspired look with faux fur details and a bold color palette. Georges showcases a high-fashion editorial look with sleek lines and fur embellishments. Chanel goes for a dramatic over-the-top fur cape paired with a glamorous gown. And Nina West delivers a campy, fun look with a playful mix of colors and textures. Judging and lip sync. The judges deliberate and give their critiques praising Gottmik and Nina West for their standout roast performances and stunning runway looks. Vanessa Vanjie also receives high marks for her energy and creativity. However, Georges and Chanel receive mixed feedback for their roast performances despite their strong runway looks. RuPaul announces the top 2 queens of the week, Gottmik and Nina West. They compete in a high-energy lip sync to a classic pop hit, each bringing their unique style and charisma to the performance. In the end, Gottmik wins the lip sync, earning the benefactress badge and the power to block one queen from receiving a badge the following week. Gottmik strategically and surprisingly chooses to block Vanessa Vanjie, seeing her as strong competition. The episode ends with the queens reflecting on the challenge and preparing for the next week, knowing that the competition is only getting tougher.
Guys, I didn't write any of that. That's AI. And that could theoretically come very close to what happens on that episode. And I think that speaks to sort of the problem of this current season of All-Star Season 9. It feels AI generated. It's fine. It does the job. The nourishment is palatable, but it's not memorable. It's flavorless. You know, I think the problem is this, and I've talked about this before, is it kind of feels like an SNL problem in that SNL, no, I'll say this, Drag Race is better than SNL, but SNL is in this weird rut because Lorne Michaels has a stranglehold on that show. And so it's his staff that's been there for decades. It's him. And they do things the way they've always been done. And they refuse to do any sort of outside of the box thinking. The political sketches on SNL are still written by the same guy who wrote them like 40 years ago. So I think there might be a rough spot after Lorne Michaels leaves or dies. But I think ultimately you're going to see SNL come back to its former glory once they get their bearings and realize how to do it again. And then they bring in fresh blood. And I think they kind of have to do the same thing with at least the All-Star season. They have to go back to the drawing board. What I'm really recommending is next year, just do fucking old-fashioned eliminations. I'm saying, this is what I'm saying, because I know they've been struggling to get queens to come back. Do old school eliminations, maybe do some sort of trick where they can stay on the show and show off their outfits, maybe even walk the runway, but just not eligible for the competition. And they get a stipend for their clothing and you give them some money because that's one of the problems. These queens now are so booked and blessed that to go on All-Stars are actually losing money. So pay them for their time, give them a stipend, but go back to old school eliminations and drop this All-Stars rules thing, and just for at least for a couple of seasons until you can rethink the show. Go back to the drawing board, because I think the show needs to take a hard look at itself, and because this show is just Luke in the chat room says they need to stop trying to make alliances happen. That too, there's a lot of things they can do. But I think anyone who thinks that the show is really delivering on its potential is wrong, is all I have to say. And, I gotta be honest with you about something. when I wrote this thing, I have it right here in front of me. I was trying to end with a bang, but it made no sense. Let me see if I can find it here. It made no sense, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't do it. I wanted to end with one of those really yeah, he ended with a fucking punctuation mark. That motherfucker Joe Betance, right? And this is what I wrote, but it made no sense. It makes no sense. And I thought to myself, I'll just revisit this in the morning. I'll give it that punch it needs. But you'll see what I was going for, but it makes no sense. So I do the SNL thing. I go, but look at SNL. It's tired and stale because the people at the top have been thus far something and choose only to do things the way they've always been done. As for the show, something modes the... Oh, as the show approaches its 20-year mark, it's going to have to take a good look in the mirror and ask itself, if it can't save itself, how in the hell is it going to save somebody else? And I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But I wanted to end on yeah, I'm throwing this fucking line right back in their motherfucking faces. They're going to be like, yes. But I couldn't get it to work. And that's ultimately why I was like, we got to go back to the drawing board on this. Which is what I'm saying. We need to go back to... Look at this. I have the wherewithal to be like, we have to go back to the drawing board for Rulaska Thoughts. We're going to do that. We'll go to a basic Rulaska Thoughts right now, and we're going to go back to the drawing board and redesign it for the rest of the season. See how I'm willing to do that? You can do that too, World of Wonder. Ultimately, that's what we're talking about. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Hopefully, Roberto Mata comes back. She seems to be very popular in the summer. Otherwise, it'll be me and maybe somebody else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Because you know why? We're going back to the drawing board right here on Rulaska Thoughts. We'll see you guys next week.